They locked the door behind me, and I heard the click. That sound wasn't safety. It was a sentence. I stood in the hallway of Evergreen Haven, holding the coat they almost threw away, when my fingers brushed against something folded deep in the pocket. A lottery ticket. Powerball. Draw date. The same week they locked me inside. And the winning numbers. Every single one of them matched. $62 million unclaimed. Hidden in the pocket of a woman everyone thought was too old to notice. I didn't scream. I didn't laugh. I just whispered to myself, well, now the game begins. Because this isn't a story about luck. It's a story about betrayal. About the daughter who signed my name on papers I never saw, sold my house, and told the world I was safe. It's a story about how one quiet old woman turned their cruelty into her greatest escape. You think you know how it ends. Money, revenge, maybe forgiveness. But trust me, you don't. There's something buried deeper than that ticket. Something I never meant to uncover. And by the time you find out what it is, it'll already be too late to look away. So ask yourself, what would you do if everyone you loved locked you away, and you suddenly held the power to destroy them all? Before we go further, take a moment to subscribe, because stories like this don't just entertain. They remind you that you're not alone. And if you've ever felt forgotten, this one's for you. Keep listening till the end. There's a secret waiting for you there, one even I didn't see coming. Now let me take you back to the day they took everything from me, and the night I realized I just won it all back. The morning they came for me didn't look like a kidnapping. There were no police cars, no shouting, just my daughter Lucy standing in my kitchen, holding a paper cup of coffee she didn't drink. She kept her voice soft, too soft, the kind of tone you use when you're about to do something unforgivable. "Mom," she said, "you've been forgetting things. It's getting dangerous. Brian and I think you should stay somewhere safe for a little while." Somewhere safe. That's how betrayal always introduces itself. Gentle words, a smile rehearsed in the mirror. I looked around the kitchen, the clock still ticking above the stove, the curtains I'd sewn myself, the smell of cinnamon rolls cooling on the counter. My life wasn't chaotic. It was just lived in. "Lucy," I said, "I'm fine. I'm 74, not 7, but she didn't hear me. Or maybe she didn't want to. Two men from Evergreen Haven Care Transport stepped into the doorway. Big, polite, efficient. One took my suitcase. The other smiled like he'd practiced looking kind. Before I could protest, Lucy reached for my hand. "It's only temporary," she said. "Just until we sort some paperwork." Paperwork. That word did more damage than she could ever imagine. I watched as she emptied my purse, took my phone, my house keys, even the grocery list I'd written that morning. "Just so nothing gets lost," she explained. But something was lost. Me. They drove me in silence. The city blurred into gray. When we arrived, Evergreen Haven didn't look cruel. It looked clean, deceptively calm, a building painted in soothing colors, as if pastel walls could disguise captivity. A young nurse in pink scrubs greeted us with a too bright smile. "Welcome, Mrs. Cole," she said. "We've been expecting you." "Expecting me?" I hadn't expected to be here. I turned to Lucy. "I didn't agree to this." She squeezed my arm. "You need rest. We'll visit soon, okay?" And then she kissed my cheek like she was tucking me into a coffin. When she walked out, I waited for her to come back. 5 minutes, 10, 20. She didn't. A nurse named Sandra handed me a folder. "You're a full resident now," she said. "I didn't sign anything," I whispered. "Your daughter did. She has power of attorney." Power of attorney. It sounded official. It felt like theft. They showed me to room 109, a small space with white walls, a narrow bed, and a window that didn't open. My clothes were already hanging in the closet, half of them missing. The photo of my late husband, Tom, sat on the windowsill. The detail broke me. Lucy had thought of that. Even betrayal can be sentimental. I sat on the bed, trying to understand how my own life had been signed away. At dinner, the food was soft and tasteless. I asked the woman beside me if this place was always so quiet. She smiled sadly. It's not quiet. It's just full of people no one listens to anymore. Her name was Ruth. She'd been here 3 years. Her son had promised to take her home after 6 months. He never did. That night, I lay awake, listening to the sounds of the hallway, shuffling slippers, muted coughs, televisions murmuring to people who'd stopped talking back. Every noise reminded me I didn't belong here. I thought about my house, the lilac bushes, the squeaky front gate, the dent in the kitchen table where Tom dropped his toolbox years ago. That house wasn't just wood and nails. It was proof I'd lived, and now it was gone. I tried to call Lucy the next morning, but the nurse said my care plan didn't include phone privileges. Care plan, another phrase that meant control. I asked to speak to the administrator. Only available on Wednesdays, she said. It was Monday. I wanted to scream. But when you've raised a child who can smile while locking you away, you learn that noise is useless. So I smiled back. I folded my hands. And somewhere deep inside, I began to plan, because if they thought age made me weak, they were about to learn what 74 years of quiet observation can do. The third night at Evergreen, Haven was the hardest. Sleep came and went like an uninvited guest, staying just long enough to remind me what peace used to feel like. The halls hummed with the same rhythm every night. A cart squeaked. Someone coughed behind a thin door. A woman cried softly into her pillow until she forgot why she started. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, counting cracks like stars that refused to shine. Somewhere in the distance, the old clock in the lobby struck midnight. 12 chimes. 12 reminders that my life had been signed away without my permission. On the dresser sat a small box, white wood, chipped edges, brass hinges dulled by time. My late husband, Tom, had given it to me on our 25th anniversary. When it opened, it played a song he used to hum while fixing the porch swing. Lucy must have packed it, maybe thinking it would make this place feel like home. It didn't. But that night, I needed something familiar, even if it hurt. I wound the little key and lifted the lid. The melody began to play, slow, broken, like it was remembering too. Inside was a faded photograph of Tom holding our newborn daughter, a small brooch, and something folded at the bottom. At first, I thought it was a receipt, but when I unfolded it, the paper was thicker, glossy, a lottery ticket, Powerball, numbers neatly marked in black ink. Purchase date, 1 week before Lucy brought me here. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The air felt too heavy, too sharp. I whispered the numbers to myself slowly, the way I used to recite bedtime prayers. Then I laughed, quietly, bitterly. What are the odds, I said, that the only thing I own now is a useless piece of paper? I almost threw it away, but something in me hesitated. Tom used to buy 1 ticket every month, always saying, "Hope costs $1, Maggie, and some days, that's the best bargain you'll find." I hadn't bought one in years, not until the week before everything changed. I tucked the ticket back into the box, but sleep refused to come. By dawn, curiosity had replaced despair. When the morning nurse brought my tray, lukewarm oatmeal, orange juice from concentrate, I asked if the TV in the common room got the news channels. She nodded, distracted. Usually, but the remote's missing again, I smiled. That's all right. I just need to see the numbers. At 10 o'clock, I slipped into the common room. Half the residents were napping in front of game shows. The rest stared at the screen without seeing. Found the local station. The Powerball results were still running. In the ticker at the bottom, I read the numbers. Once, then again, and again. Every single one matched. I felt the world tilt, just slightly, like the room had shifted under my feet. I clutched the armrest, afraid someone might see the tremor in my hands. $62 million unclaimed, hidden in a place where nobody looked for miracles. For the first time since Tom's funeral, I smiled. Not wide, not triumphant, just a quiet, dangerous smile. Because suddenly I wasn't powerless. I was holding a secret that could rewrite everything Lucy thought she owned. But I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Secrets this valuable are like fire. You keep them close, or they burn you alive. I spent the rest of the day pretending to read, to nap, to knit, pretending I didn't notice Sandra, the head nurse, pocketing the leftover desserts meant for the residents. Pretending I didn't see Ruth cry over a letter that never came. Pretending I was harmless, because harmless women get ignored and invisible women get freedom. That night, I hid the ticket inside the lining of my coat, the same coat they almost threw away. It hung by the door, ordinary, forgotten, perfect. When the lights went out, I lay awake again, heart beating louder than the ticking clock. 62 million, I whispered it once, testing the weight of it on my tongue. It didn't taste like greed, it tasted like revenge. But somewhere beneath that sharpness, softer, almost tender, was another taste, hope, maybe, just maybe, that little piece of paper could buy me something Lucy never could. My way out. I learned something quickly at Evergreen Haven. If you want to survive, you have to disappear, not physically, no, just emotionally. You nod when they speak. You smile when they forget your name. You become agreeable, invisible, part of the furniture. The trick is, once you stop talking, people stop being careful around you. They assume your silence is weakness, but silence can be armor, too. Every morning, the nurses rolled their carts down the hall, plastic trays rattling, pills sorted by color instead of name. They called us sweetheart, dear, honey. Words that sounded soft until you realized they were just labels for people they'd stopped seeing. So I smiled, said thank you, and tucked my secret deeper into my coat. Invisibility became my weapon. At breakfast, I sat near the corner table, the one closest to the staff door. That's where you hear everything. Who's behind on payments? Which families stopped visiting? Who's being transferred because their insurance ran out? It's funny what people will say when they think you're too old to matter. One afternoon, I heard Sandra, the nurse with lipstick too bright for her kindness, speaking to the administrator. Mr. Kellerman, they were standing just outside the dining room. Another one refusing therapy? She said. He sighed. Document her as non-compliant. We'll adjust her care plan and bill for extended support. Won't the family notice? He smiled. Families never read the fine print. I stirred my soup, heart pounding, and memorized every word. Maybe my memory wasn't so bad after all. That's when I met George. He sat across from me one morning, a thin man with a sharp gaze and hands that shook only when he laughed. First week? He asked. Third? I said. Feels like longer, he chuckled. Time moves differently in places built to forget people. George used to be an accountant. He'd been put here after his son convinced a doctor to declare him incompetent. Convenient, he said, especially when you've got a will to rewrite. We started sitting together every day. He taught me how to listen without looking like you were listening, how to watch reflections in glass, how to notice who takes the elevator key when the supervisor isn't around. You learn a lot by pretending you can't hear, he said. He was right. Within a week, I knew that Mr. Kellerman was siphoning donations meant for patient programs, and that Sandra was selling unused medication samples to the pharmacy next door, and that 3 residents' houses had mysteriously changed ownership after they'd moved out. That's what they call dying. Here, I wrote everything down in a small notebook I hid under the mattress. Each page was a quiet rebellion, dates, names, overheard phrases, evidence in case my silence ever needed to speak. But most days, I still felt like a ghost walking through someone else's story. Sometimes Lucy called. Sandra would hand me the cordless phone with that tight little smile. "Your daughter's checking in." Sweetheart. Lucy always sounded rushed, cheerful, rehearsed. "Hi, Mom. Everything okay? You're eating, right? They're treating you well?" "Yes," I'd answer. I never mentioned the ticket, never mentioned the plan forming like a slow storm behind my ribs. Once I asked about my house. "Oh, we're just sorting things," she said. "You don't need to worry about any of that," her voice sugar sweet, like icing over poison. When the call ended, I sat there staring at the phone until the line went dead. Then I whispered, "I'm not worried, Lucy. You should be." Later that night, George found me in the hallway. "You look like a woman thinking too loudly," he said. "Maybe I am." He leaned closer. "Whatever it is, keep it small and quiet." "They don't look for small and quiet things. They look for trouble." I nodded. "I've been troubled before. I can be quiet this time." From then on, I watched more than I spoke. The staff thought I was fading. They started talking over me, around me, through me. Perfect, because when people stop seeing you, you finally get to see everything. I learned who forged signatures, who pocketed cash, who hid mistakes with fake reports. I learned that this place wasn't just a nursing home, it was a machine, and I was the ghost inside it. Watching it from the gears, every night before lights out, I touched the lining of my coat, felt the soft edge of the ticket against my fingertips, and reminded myself why I was still here. Not to survive, to listen, to wait, to find the right moment to strike back, quietly, invisibly, the way they'd taught me. It was George who first said the word lawyer. He said it one afternoon as we sat in the common room pretending to play checkers. "Every cage has a key, Maggie," he whispered. "You just have to know where to ask for it." I looked at him, half amused. And who would listen to an old woman in a place like this? He grinned. "Someone who knows what it's like to be forgotten." That night, I waited until the night nurse, an 18-year-old who spent more time on her phone than on her rounds, walked past my door. When the hallway quieted, I slipped out, my slippers whispering against the linoleum. At the front desk sat the old rotary phone, chipped and yellowed, a relic, like me. I dialed a number I'd found in the back of a discarded newspaper. A tiny ad for elder rights and estate protection. "Discreet consultations," a woman answered. Her voice was calm, careful. "Reed and Associates. How may I help you?" I hesitated. "I'm calling for a relative," I said, steadying my breath. "She's in a care home. She believes her family has taken her property without consent." There was a pause. "We handle that often. May I have a name?" I looked at the peeling wallpaper and smiled. "Clara Rowe," I said. It wasn't my name, but it would do. By morning, I had a message waiting at the reception. Appointment confirmed. Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Visitor will ask for Miss Rowe. No sender, no logo, just black ink on white paper. I folded it into my coat pocket, right next to the ticket. For the next 3 days, I felt alive again. I hummed at breakfast. I volunteered for arts and crafts. Sandra even remarked, "Someone's in a good mood." I smiled. "Faith can move mountains." She laughed. "Didn't know you were religious." "I'm not," I said, "but I believe in miracles that don't ask for prayers." Thursday came slow. At 2:29, a dark sedan pulled up outside. A man stepped out, mid-40s, gray suit, briefcase. He looked too calm, too deliberate. "Miss Rowe?" he asked when he reached the lobby. I nodded. "That's me." He didn't blink. "Good. Let's find somewhere private." We sat in the garden, the kind that pretends to smell like flowers but only smells like disinfectant. He introduced himself as Nathan Reed. "Estate attorney," he said. "You mentioned a case of elder financial manipulation." "I did," I answered. "Mine." He leaned back, studying me. "Your family?" "My daughter. She signed my name on documents I never saw, took my home, my savings, even my mail." He took notes without interrupting. When he spoke again, his tone was neither shocked nor pitying, just professional. "We can challenge that. It takes time, but it's possible. Do you know what she's done with your assets?" "Probably selling the house as we speak." He nodded once. "Then we'll move faster." I hesitated before pulling the envelope from my coat. "There's something else," I said, sliding it toward him. He unfolded the paper, scanned the numbers, checked the date, and looked back up at me. "Have you verified this?" "Yes," I said quietly. 62 million. It's real." He didn't whistle or gasp. He just nodded, almost respectfully. "Does anyone else know?" "No one." "Then we'll keep it that way." He outlined the plan with the precision of a surgeon. The ticket would be claimed through a legal trust under an alias, Clara Rowe. Funds routed through blind transfers, protected from family interference. He'd handle every step himself. "You'll need a mailing address," he said. "I don't have one." "Then I'll arrange a lockbox downtown. All correspondence will come there. Do not discuss this with anyone inside the facility." I met his eyes. "You sound like a man who's done this before." He smiled faintly. "More times than I'd like. Families don't always act like families." I looked at his hands. Steady, deliberate. The hands of someone used to fixing what others broke. "Why do you do this, Mr. Reed?" I asked. He paused. "My grandmother lost everything to her own son. I couldn't stop it then, so now I stop it for others." He stood. "I'll be in touch within 72 hours. You'll hear from a woman named Carla. She handles our secure line. In the meantime, stay quiet, stay invisible." "I've had practice," I said. He turned to leave, then stopped. "One more thing? You trust me?" I smiled. "I don't trust anyone anymore, but I believe in timing." When he left, I stayed in the garden long after the door shut. The air was sharp, the wind heavy with rain. For the first time since Tom died, I felt like the world had tilted back in my favor. Back in my room, I opened my notebook and wrote, "Day 13. Contact made, lawyer secured, trust in motion." Then I closed it, slid it under my pillow, and whispered, "Tom, if you can hear me, your stubborn wife isn't done yet." Because maybe prayer wasn't for miracles. Maybe it was just another way of saying, I'm still fighting. Sunday mornings at Evergreen Haven were always the same. Burnt coffee, weak sunlight, and hymns echoing down the hallway from a television no one was really watching. But that morning felt different. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the way my hands stopped shaking when I buttoned my coat, because I knew who was coming. At exactly 10:15, I heard the sound of heels on linoleum, sharp, confident, rehearsed. Lucy! She walked into the visitor's lounge carrying a paper bag that smelled faintly of cinnamon, as if the scent alone could erase the fact that she'd stolen my life. "Mom," she said brightly, "I brought your favorite pastries." Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind you use to feed poison. I looked up slowly, keeping my face calm. "You remembered?" "Of course I did," she said, setting the bag on the table. "How are you settling in?" "Like a bird in a gilded cage," I said. She laughed too quickly. "You always had a way with words." I watched her eyes as she glanced around the room, checking for witnesses, for staff. She wasn't here for me. She was here for control. "Your hair looks nice," she said. "You've been taking care of yourself." "I try," I said. "Even prisoners brush their hair." Her smile faltered. "Mom, don't say things like that. We're doing our best for you." I leaned forward. "Are you?" She blinked, unsure how to answer. Then she reached for my hand. "I know this hasn't been easy, but you have to trust me. I'm handling everything. Your accounts, your house." "My house," I interrupted. "Tell me, Lucy, is it still standing?" "Of course," she said too fast. "We're just exploring options." Exploring options. That was her polite way of saying selling it behind my back. I let the silence stretch. People always reveal themselves when they can't bear the quiet. Finally, she sighed. "Mom, listen. Property taxes, maintenance, it's too much. You don't even live there anymore. It's just practical." "Practical," I repeated softly. "That's what you call it?" She hesitated. "What would you call it?" "Theft," I said. Her cheeks flushed. "That's not fair." "Neither was locking me in here." For a moment the mask slipped. The kind, dutiful daughter vanished, and I saw what lay underneath. Fear. Guilt. Greed. She looked away first. I leaned back, voice calm. "Tell me, Lucy, did you ever look in the music box when you packed my things?" She frowned. "What music box?" "The white one, on my dresser." She shook her head. "I don't remember." "Good," I said. "Then maybe some things are better left forgotten." Her brow furrowed, but before she could speak, Sandra poked her head in. "Everything all right, ladies?" "Just fine," I said sweetly. "My daughter was just leaving." Lucy blinked. "Already?" "Yes. You've done enough, don't you think?" Sandra glanced between us, uncomfortable, then left. Lucy stood, flustered. "Mom, I'll call you later, okay?" "Of course," I said. "I'll be here until I'm not." When she walked out, I waited until her car was gone before letting the smile creep across my face, because I'd already set the trap. 2 days earlier, Nathan had sent a letter, typed neatly on professional stationery, no trace of my name. It offered to buy my house at a premium price, all cash, through a private investment firm. The letter was addressed to Mrs. Lucy Bennett, acting property representative. It had only one purpose: to make her greedy. By that afternoon, I got a call from Rosie, my granddaughter. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Grandma, Did you send Mom some letter? She's been on the phone all morning freaking out. Some company wants to buy your house for $1.2 million. I smiled. Oh? And what does your mother think? She thinks it's too good to be true. But she's trying to find out who sent it. I'm sure she is, I said. Rosie hesitated. Grandma, do you even want to sell? No, I said quietly. But sometimes, darling, you have to let people believe they've already won, so they'll show you where they've been cheating. That night I wrote in my notebook, Lucy took the bait. Step 2 begins. The next morning I asked Sandra to help me print something. Just a letter to a friend, I told her. She shrugged and handed me the printer access code. The letter began, To whom it may concern, I, Margaret Cole, am of sound mind and have not authorized the sale of my property at 14 Westwood Avenue to any party. Any representation made by others is fraudulent and subject to legal dispute. I sealed it, labeled it to the Riverside Estate Consultants, Nathan's fictional firm, and tucked it away. It wasn't for mailing, it was for evidence, because the moment Lucy tried to act on that offer, she'd be walking straight into a legal snare with her signature all over it. Later, George asked me why I was smiling at dinner. Because, I said, stirring my soup, my daughter thinks she's winning a game I already finished. He grinned. That's the best time to play. That night, I took the music box from the shelf, wound it once, and let the melody fill the room. Tom's tune. Our tune. I opened the lid and whispered, She's coming for the house, love. But she has no idea I already own the story. Outside my window, rain started to fall, soft, rhythmic, patient, like me. Because when the storm comes, it's never the thunder that destroys, it's the quiet before it. 3 days after Lucy's visit, the call finally came. Nathan's voice was steady, professional, but there was a quiet thrill beneath it. The court has set a date, he said. Next Thursday, 10 a.m. We'll petition to revoke your daughter's power of attorney. I stood by the window, the phone pressed to my ear. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the lawn like tiny golden secrets. Will she be there? I asked. She'll have to be, he said. And you'll need to speak for yourself. My heart didn't pound. It simply steadied. After months of silence, I was finally going to be heard. When Thursday came, the sky was gray and low, the kind of morning that feels like the world is holding its breath. The car arrived promptly at 8:30, a black sedan, quiet and unmarked. Sandra clucked at me as I put on my coat. Court hearing, huh? You nervous? I smiled. Only for the judge. The ride was long, and I said nothing. Nathan waited for me outside the courthouse, crisp as ever, holding a folder that looked heavier than it should. You ready? He asked. I've been ready since the day they took my keys. The courtroom wasn't what I expected. No marble floors. No drama, just fluorescent lights and paperwork. Lucy was already there. She looked small, nervous. For a second, I saw the little girl who used to hide behind her father's leg when she was scared. Then she turned, and her eyes met mine, cold, defensive. Nathan leaned close. Let me do the talking. But when the judge asks, you answer clearly. I nodded. The judge entered. A woman with iron gray hair and a gaze that could slice through pretense. Mrs. Cole, she said, you are requesting revocation of your daughter's legal authority over your affairs. Yes, Your Honor, I said. My voice didn't shake. She acted without my consent. Lucy's lawyer, a man who looked like he practiced smiling in mirrors, stood up. Your Honor, my client acted purely out of concern. Mrs. Cole was displaying memory loss, confusion, signs of diminished capacity. I almost laughed. Nathan handed over the file. Full cognitive evaluation, he said. Clear mental competency, signed by a state-licensed psychologist. The judge flipped through it, then looked at me. Do you understand the consequences of this motion, Mrs. Cole? I do. I just want my name back. For a moment the room was silent except for the hum of the lights. Lucy shifted. Uncomfortable, Mrs. Bennet, the judge said, turning to her. Did your mother sign any documents transferring authority to you? Lucy hesitated. Not directly, but so she did not sign them. Her lawyer cut in. Your Honor, the paperwork was processed electronically. The judge raised her hand. That will be enough. When she looked back at me, her eyes softened slightly. Mrs. Cole, do you wish to assign this authority to anyone else? No, I said. I've had enough people speak for me. The gavel came down like a heartbeat. Motion granted. Just like that, it was over. No fireworks. No applause. Just the sound of a paper sliding down the bench toward Nathan. A single sheet that returned everything they'd taken. Outside the courthouse, Lucy followed me. Mom, wait! She called. I turned. The wind caught her hair, whipping it across her face. She looked smaller now, deflated. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. But you did. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought I was helping. No, Lucy, I said softly. You thought you were the only one who could help. She swallowed hard. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. That's the point. For the first time in years, I felt light. I had nothing left to lose, and nothing left to beg for. Lucy stepped closer. Mom, what happens now? I smiled. Now I get to decide what forgiveness looks like. She blinked. So you're not angry? Oh, I'm angry, I said. But anger doesn't have to be a weapon. Sometimes it's a mirror. Nathan waited by the car, watching quietly as Lucy wiped her eyes. When I turned away, I didn't look back. On the ride home, the silence felt different. It wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. When we reached Evergreen Haven, I didn't go inside. Nathan handed me an envelope. The funds are secure, he said. The trust is in place. You can leave whenever you're ready. Ready, I repeated. That's a word I haven't used in a long time, he smiled faintly. You're free, Mrs. Cole. What will you do now? I looked at the road ahead, sunlight finally breaking through the clouds. Maybe I'll start over. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I don't need to be anyone's burden or anyone's lesson. He nodded. Redemption, then, I thought for a moment. Maybe, or maybe just peace. When I stepped out of the car, I didn't go back to my room. I went to the garden, the one that always smelled faintly of bleach and rain. I sat on the bench and whispered to the air, Tom, it's done. I got my name back. A breeze moved through the trees, soft, approving. For the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost haunting my own life. I felt alive, not because I'd won, but because I'd stopped fighting just to prove I could. Revenge gives you satisfaction for a moment. Redemption gives you freedom forever, and sometimes the best kind of revenge is walking away smiling, while they wonder how you did it. The morning of the hearing arrived cold and gray. The air outside the nursing home smelled like rain and hospital soap, clean but not fresh. The driver opened the door for me like I was something fragile. I wasn't, not anymore. Nathan met me at the courthouse steps, coat collar turned up, hair damp from drizzle. He looked steady, calm, the kind of man who already knew which way the scales would tilt. You ready? He asked. I've been ready since they called me confused, I said. Inside the courtroom wasn't grand. No mahogany benches or marble walls, just flickering lights, water-stained ceiling tiles, and a tired judge whose expression said she'd heard every kind of lie imaginable. Lucy sat across from me. She looked perfect as always. Hair pressed, pearls gleaming, a widow's calm on a face that had never lost anything, except, maybe, herself. She didn't look at me. Not yet. When the judge called the case, Nathan stood first. His voice was steady but sharp enough to cut glass. Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Margaret Cole, was placed into residential care without her consent. Her daughter, Mrs. Lucy Bennett, filed documents transferring all financial and legal authority to herself. My client maintains that no such authorization was ever signed or explained. The judge nodded slowly. And Mrs. Bennett? Lucy's lawyer rose, slick, polished, every syllable polished like silver. Your Honor, Mrs. Bennett acted in her mother's best interest. Mrs. Cole had demonstrated cognitive decline, and multiple safety incidents were reported at home. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Cole, do you wish to speak? I stood, my knees steady as stone. Yes, Your Honor. For a moment I looked at Lucy. She met my eyes for the first time in months. Her mouth twitched, the faintest sign of doubt. I've been called forgetful, I said quietly. But I remember the day they took my keys. I remember my daughter smiling while she told me I'd be safe, and I remember signing nothing. The room went still. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. I am old, I continued, but I am not broken. My mind is my own. My life is my own. All I want is what every person deserves, the right to decide what happens to me. Nathan handed over a folder. Medical records, full cognitive assessment. Mrs. Cole shows no sign of dementia or diminished capacity. Lucy's lawyer objected, muttering about outdated reports. The judge silenced him with one raised hand. Mrs. Bennett, she said, did your mother authorize you to act on her behalf? Lucy hesitated, her throat bobbed once, twice. She didn't say no, she whispered. The judge's eyebrow lifted. She didn't say yes either. Lucy's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, this is an emotional misunderstanding, not fraud. Nathan didn't flinch. Your Honor, the defendant liquidated her mother's accounts and initiated a property listing under forged consent. That's not misunderstanding. That's theft. Lucy's face drained of color. That's not true. The judge's gavel cracked once. Enough, she turned to me. Mrs. Cole, do you have anything else to say? I took a breath. Yes, I forgive her. Lucy's head snapped up. The judge paused. Forgive her? Yes, I said softly, because I've carried enough anger in my life. I don't want to take it with me wherever I'm going next. I just want to walk out of here with my name back. For the first time since I'd entered that courtroom, Lucy started to cry. Quietly, like she didn't mean to. The judge nodded slowly. The court grants revocation of power of attorney. Mrs. Cole, your legal rights are restored effective immediately. The gavel struck again. One sound, and everything that had been taken from me, my house, my voice, my dignity, fell back into place. Nathan touched my shoulder. It's done, he whispered. Outside the air smelled like freedom and wet pavement. Lucy followed me down the steps, clutching her coat like armor. Mom, she called. I stopped, turned, waited. I never meant for it to go this far, she said. I thought I was protecting you. I studied her face. The daughter I'd raised. The woman who'd forgotten where she came from. You can't protect someone by erasing them, I said. Her lip trembled. Can you ever forgive me? I already did, I said. But that doesn't mean you get to come with me. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then she nodded. The smallest, saddest nod I'd ever seen. Nathan opened the car door. Home? He asked. Not yet, I said. Somewhere else first. We drove past the courthouse, past the city, until the buildings thinned into trees and water. The world outside blurred, but I could see clearly for the first time in years. "Do you regret it?" Nathan asked quietly. "No," I said. "Even betrayal has its purpose. It wakes you up." He smiled faintly. "Then this is your beginning." Maybe it was. Because when we reached the old highway that curved toward the coast, I rolled down the window and let the wind in. Cold, clean, alive. And for the first time since that door clicked shut behind me at Evergreen Haven, I wasn't someone's patient. I wasn't someone's burden. I was just a woman who'd survived being silenced and finally found her own voice again. The car stopped just past the sign that read, "Bluewood Lake, private road." Morning mist hung low over the water, soft as breath. The air smelled of pine and quiet things. "This is it," Nathan said, stepping out first. "Your new address." The house wasn't grand. Just a small white cottage with blue shutters, a porch swing, and a roof that needed mending. The kind of place where silence doesn't feel lonely. It feels earned. I stood there for a long while before going inside. The floorboards creaked, the way honest things do. A single chair waited by the window. On the counter, a teapot was already set out, steam curling from its spout. Nathan thought of everything. When he left, he said only, "You're free now, Margaret. Don't forget how that feels." I promised I wouldn't. That night I unpacked slowly. A few dresses, Tom's photo, the music box. I wound it once and the familiar tune filled the room, fragile, trembling but still here, like me. I sat by the window, watching the reflection of the moon dance across the lake. In the distance, I could almost hear Rosie's laughter. I'd mailed her a letter 2 days before the hearing, 4 pages in my own handwriting, a copy of the trust papers, and a note that simply said, "When they tell you to be quiet, remember, you come from a line of women who refuse to stay silent." I hoped she'd understand. For the first time in months, I slept without checking the lock. No nurses counting pills. No footsteps outside my door. Just the sound of water brushing against the shore and the slow rhythm of my own breathing. In the morning, I made toast with too much butter, poured tea, and sat in the sunlight. I didn't think about revenge or regret. I thought about freedom, the small, everyday kind, opening a window when you want to, saying no without explaining why, owning your name. People think freedom is loud. It isn't. It's quiet. It's the stillness after a long storm, when you finally realize you've survived it. I walked out to the porch, the lake shimmering like glass. The wind carried a faint whisper, almost like Tom's voice. "You did it, Maggie." I smiled. "We did it. If you've ever been silenced, ignored or locked away and told it was love, listen. To me, you are not a burden. You are not finished. And no one gets to decide when your story ends." The lake was calm. The world was mine. Again, and for the first time, so was my voice.